Hey folks, welcome back for part 2 of our syllabus overview for EDU 5202. In this video, we are just going to be talking about assignments and assessments for our course. So for our assignments this semester, like I do in most of my other courses, I have tried to make them a little bit more practical, more hands-on. So I've tried to make them very easily applicable to your work, to your interests, to your teaching and professional context. I've also tried to give you a lot of freedom of what you can explore in the class, and hopefully they will be fun assignments. And I've kept my assignments fairly open-ended because I wanted to make sure our assignments would be relevant regardless of your profession and work setting. So whether you're teaching, say, pre-licensure, post-licensure, post-grad, or continuing professional development, whether you're new to teaching or you've been teaching for 20 plus years, and whether this is your first semester in our program or this is your last and you're graduating. This is an HPE class, but I am aware that we do have learners from different concentrations in our course. So while our readings are generally going to be very much geared towards healthcare, I have tried to add in different readings, and I've given a lot of flexibility in the assignments so you can relate these different concepts and ideas back to your own concentrations and contexts that you work in. Now I'm going to provide a brief overview of the assignments. If you have any questions or things you'd like me to elaborate on further, please do submit your questions and I can address them in another video. And please do also read the syllabus. Some stuff will be in a little bit more depth in the actual syllabus. So there are 4 categories of assignments, if you will. So there are our introductions, the learning lab work, teaching strategies, team teaching. I gotta come up with a briefer name for that assignment in future. And the final project. So for introductions, so this assignment category, if you will, consists of 2 things: completing the Getting to Know You survey and introducing yourself on Brightspace, both of which are worth 1%. So behaviorism in action. All you have to do is complete these and you get 1% for each. Some of you have already done this, so some of you, we haven't even started the class yet, and you already have 2% towards your grade done. Note with these, I do have to manually go in to update your gradebook, so this isn't automated. So if you complete this and you don't automatically see 1% in your gradebook, I just haven't done it yet. I ask that you get these done by January 16th, midnight wherever you are. If you're joining our class a little late, not to worry, we'll extend the deadline for you, just get this done ASAP. And the reason why I want this done so quickly is because I'm going to use this information to create your learning lab teams, who is the group you're going to be working with for the group discussions, if you will, for this class. The next category of assignments is our learning lab work, which is worth a total of 43%. So there's a lot of learning going on in this category. So the learning lab teams are small interdisciplinary teams that you're going to be exploring and discussing different teaching strategies with this semester. For the learning lab teams, you have the option of meeting synchronously or asynchronously. You can also meet off of Brightspace if you like. In the past, I've noticed that some learners prefer to have their discussions on Brightspace, but many find it very inconvenient. I have found that generally most students prefer to meet asynchronously on WhatsApp or synchronously on a platform like Zoom. I'm fine with whatever you want to do, just have one person in your group let me know if you're going to be meeting elsewhere. So there are 3 assignments associated with the learning lab work that you'll be doing. The first is the reusable digital learning object, worth 6%. The reflective learning tool that you'll be submitting for 8 modules, each being worth 4%, for a total of 32%. And at the end, you're going to do a self and a peer evaluation. So the reusable digital learning object, worth 6%. So this is my activity that I designed for the prof-led example of a teaching strategy team teaching assignment. This assignment is a little more time consuming though than what you will probably come up with for your groups, so I wanted to assign some marks from it. I'm also hoping that the experience of getting to design a reusable digital learning object will help you prepare for your teaching experience that you're going to be doing this semester. So for this assignment, you're going to be creating short reusable digital learning objects such as a short video or an infographic on a healthcare or an educational topic that you want to teach others about. So in the past, I've had learners do infographics for patient education purposes such as sun safety, infographics on, say, a policy and a procedure in their workplace, short animated videos for their clinic's website, maybe like a what to expect when they come to the office, or a really common patient education topic that they do at work. I've also had learners do animated videos teaching other teachers about a specific learning theory. I've also seen some short patient education videos that can loop in clinic waiting rooms. So you'll be submitting these on January 28th. And all you have to do to submit this is just simply post it on your team's Learning Lab discussion space for on Brightspace in Module 3. And part of this assignment is asking you to view and comment on at least 2 other people's products. However, if your team has chosen to meet synchronously instead and watch them as a group or watch them and discuss them synchronously, all you need to do is just have one person in your team let me know, hey, we met synchronously, and I will count this as your 2 responses. And this is a short assignment. If it's a video, it only needs to be 1 minute and 1 page for an infographic. However, it's okay if you go a little bit over. Some people get really, really into this assignment and have a lot of fun playing around with different tools like Powtoons and Animaker. And the assessment tool for this one is only a checklist. And you can find that in Appendix C of our syllabus. And this is meant to be a really fun assignment where you can try out some new technology. So get creative and have fun with this one. The next assignment we have is the Reflective Learning Tool, or RLT, as you'll see me abbreviated everywhere. And this is meant to help you document and reflect on your learning in the Learning Lab work that you're doing this semester. So our RLT has 5 main prompts that it asks you to reflect on. And the questions here are influenced from existing RLTs that actually exist within health professions education. So you may kind of recognize some of the questions. And I've also drawn on some questions that I've used in learning portfolios previously. And Appendix A has a flowchart showing the flow of the questions and the response options that can give you an idea of what to expect. So it's Appendix A. Actually, I'll keep that up for now. All right, so the RLT starts off with asking for your name and email. This is so I know it's your RLT, and by inputting your email, it will email you a copy of your RLT for your records, and you don't have to use your Ottawa email for this. You can use a different Gmail account, whatever you like. The next question is what went well. So what went well during this module? And this might pertain to something to do with more group process, or it could be something to do with your own professional development. Question 3, even better if. So things that could have gone better during this module, once again, can be about group process, or it can be something to do with professional development. Question 4, learning. How did this module impact your knowledge or your understanding? And from this, we have a few response options you can choose from. I learned something new. I am motivated to learn more. I feel reassured. I'm reminded of something I already knew, and this module will not impact my knowledge and understanding. I hope no one picks that one, but it's an option. And if you indicate you learned something new, you'll be asked to reflect on at least 1 learning point from the module. Or if you say you're motivated to learn more, you'll be asked about, is there a specific question that you were left with, or what is your next step to learn more about this topic? Question 5, application to practice. So will you use this information in this module in your current and or future practice as an educator? Yes, possibly no. And then based on what you pick, there are also sub-questions. So yes and possibly, you'll be asked how you might apply this module to your current or future professional practice as an educator. And if you indicated no, you'll be asked what barriers may get in the way of you implementing this teaching strategy in your practice. Then at the end, you are asked to either attach a copy or copy and paste in your learning artifact for this week. So this is really just attaching your evidence or your receipts for what you did in your group that week. So for example, if you do an RLT for Module 2, you could attach the mind map you created on a specific learning theory. There's also an option to copy and paste in some text. So say for Module 3, when you're creating your reusable digital learning object as part of your activity, you may just copy and paste in a link to a video there, or you may upload your infographic if you did an infographic. And in Module 4, that's another place where you may choose to just do a copy and paste. So you may choose to just copy and paste in the learning objectives that your teaching team drafted that week. Other weeks, it may just be a screenshot of a couple discussion posts. It'll really vary depending on what we're doing in a given week. Now, this is just meant to be a visual representation of what the questions are. The actual RLTs are surveys that I've programmed into Google Docs. So there are 10 weeks that you can submit an RLT, but you only need to do this for 8 of the modules. Each one that you submit is worth 4%. And the links to the RLT for each module can be found in the course schedule within our syllabus, hyperlinked in, and they are also posted on Brightspace in each module. So for each of our modules, as you go through it, you'll see things like there's a Motivation Monday, there's our readings, presentation, and you'll also see a little box that says submit an RLT, and you can find the link for that module there. I recommend submitting these by Wednesday of the following module so everything is fresh in your mind. So for example, if you wanted to do one on learning theories, I recommend submitting it by Wednesday in the following module, which is our e-learning module, so everything's fresh. But you may do it a little bit earlier or a little bit later, depending on what your schedule is like. And the length of the RLT submission, I anticipate, will really depend on the module and what you took away from it. I've suggested that you will likely want your written text to be around 200 to 250 words in total, which is about a page, I think, in a Word doc. But some of you may have more to say, depending on what the module is on. And Appendix B has our assessment tool for this assignment, which is a holistic rubric. So for each RLT you submit, I'll go through with the holistic rubric and give you a mark. Part 3 of the Learning Lab work is the self and peer evaluation, worth just 5%. And for this assignment, you will be using an evaluation tool that I've included in Appendix D to assess yourself and assess your peers. It's also available on Brightspace in Word doc form under the little assignments sidebar you can find on the course. Your mark for this is the average across all the evaluations, and this includes your self-assessment. I've done this for a number of other classes, and I find that they are almost always very, very fair. I find that the self and the peer assessment scores tend to be very similar. On the off case that someone decides to try and take someone else's grade or is unduly harsh on their peers or themselves, I will use my judgment to remedy that. Usually when this does happen, it's almost always someone just being too harsh on their self-evaluation. I find everyone usually is pretty fair on their assessment of each other. Based on this, I'll also be writing up a brief narrative statement for each person based on the comments provided by their group. So this way, any written feedback you leave for your peers makes it back to your peers while keeping it anonymous. So on the form, I have structured this in terms of identifying areas that glow or strengths for each teammate, as well as an area for future growth. Your written feedback here does not need to be long, but please do put more than just 1 or 2 words down in your response for each person. For example, saying an area for growth is communication is really broad, and it's hard for me to give that feedback to the other person. So was it an issue with written communication? Was their communications with the team not timely? Were they rude in their communications? So give me a little bit more to work with. And this is due on April 9th, so at the end of our coursework, but you can start working on this a little bit earlier, such as your narrative comments. Next up is the teaching strategy team teaching. For this assignment, you'll be working in teams of 2 to 5 to teach a module on a teaching strategy. This is worth 25%, and there is an analytical rubric in Appendix E that I'm going to be using to assess this. And there are a few components to this assignment. So first, your team will need to select a reading for the class on the teaching strategy that you are teaching on. You can also identify a couple of optional readings or additional readings. You'll need to do a presentation on the teaching strategy, and this can be a video or a narrated PowerPoint, or it could even be something like a website. Regardless of the modality you pick, though, it should take your peers about 10 to 15 minutes to get through the presentation portion, whether it's watching a video or reading through a website. And in your presentation, you should cover topics such as the historical origins of the teaching strategy, key concepts, related theories of learning, distinguishing characteristics, advantages and disadvantages, a couple of examples of how this strategy might be used. So this is a good place to draw on examples from the literature. As well as some additional resources or readings for people that want to learn more about the teaching strategy. And then your group will put together an activity that actually uses this teaching strategy. So the subject matter of this lesson or this learning experience isn't what is important, and it really doesn't have to have anything to do with health or education. What we're really looking for here is how you've used the teaching strategy or method to teach the topic. For example, a previous teaching team that did lectures as their teaching strategy designed this really cool interactive lecture on healthy hearts. And when I took this course myself in person, an orthopedic surgeon led our module on simulation, and for our activity he brought in fake fractured bone and plates and screws and power drills, and we got to do a simulation on repairing fractures, which was so much fun. Now, keep in mind when planning your activity that some groups may be meeting synchronously and some may be meeting asynchronously, so keep that in the back of the mind as you're planning your activity. And for some teaching strategies, putting together the activity can be a little bit more difficult since we're an online class. For example, I really wish we could all just go down to a simulation center and do a real simulation in person, but we can't. But there are still a number of different ways we have done this online. Each teaching team is also asked to create a concise one-page digital handout for the class. In the class, people have just done this in Word doc. Some people also like to use an infographic, and this is meant to summarize the information that was in your presentation. And please do try to keep these components concise, since some weeks we will have 2 teams presenting, and I don't want to overwhelm everybody with a lot of work. So we will be signing up for the teaching teams in Module 2, which will include which teaching strategies you're doing and when you're going to be teaching. So the actual specific due dates are going to vary depending on the group, but here we have the general flow of everything leading up to your presentation. So Wednesday noon, the week before you're teaching, I ask that you email me your reading so I can distribute it to the class so they have time to read it before your module. I also ask that you email me a concise one-page summary of your activity, including how you plan to carry it out and any potential problems you foresee, and a brief explanation of how your learning activity will enact the teaching strategy you've selected. Alternatively, if you prefer, you can have at least one person from your teaching team meet with me virtually to discuss this. So asynchronously, email me a one-pager or meet with me synchronously, your choice. And then Monday morning, the week that you're actually teaching, please email me your presentation activity and your handout so I can post it on Brightspace. If you can get it to me Sunday night, that's even better because I can get it up early, but Monday morning is also fine too. And then the final project. So the final project is worth 30% of your mark, and the final project is intended to provide you with a practical summary of a strategy or method that you would like to use in your own professional or educational context. So do pick a teaching strategy that you're really interested in and are likely to use. And as part of the assignment, you're going to be describing an actual concrete lesson or learning experience that you would like to carry out within your professional or educational context. And this learning experience could be a real one that you actually intend on carrying out, or it could be entirely hypothetical. So for this project, you can opt to be more of a text-based project, such as a traditional paper, or you could also do a website or a series of blog posts. Another option you have is doing a video presentation. And if you have other ideas, feel free to send me an email. If you do a text-based assignment, it should be around 8 to 10 pages double-spaced, or 2,000 to 2,500 words. And then video assignments, the word count equivalent of that in minutes would be about a 15 to 20 minute presentation, depending on how fast you talk. For me, it would be 15 minutes because I am a fast talker. And so your final project should contain these following components. So you should have a summary that briefly summarizes the teaching strategy or method that you have picked. And here you can use a combination of scholarly literature. You can also draw upon the one-page handouts that were provided during the team teaching. You can also take a look at the additional readings and resources that those presenters selected. Next up is application to your professional or educational context. So here you want to discuss how the strategy or method matches up with your specific professional or educational context, as well as looking at any potential problems you foresee here. So here you'll likely use a combination of scholarly literature and your own professional experiences. So for example, let's say your topic is simulation and you specifically want to look at creating a simulation of a code red or fire in the operating room. So when you're talking about the match to your context and potential problems, you may need to describe your actual work setting, which is going to come from your professional experience. However, you also should be looking at some literature that comes on simulation and surgery. And here you also want to make sure you are really delineating between those professional opinions and experiences and what's coming from scholarly sources. And then the final piece of this assignment is the use in a learning experience. So here you're going to describe an actual concrete lesson or learning experience that you would like to carry out in the context that you've previously described. This description doesn't have to be super detailed. What I'm looking for here is it logically flowing from the previous 2 sections. And make sure you include this part of the assignment. I've noticed in the past that sometimes students forget to include this part, and it is worth a fairly substantial chunk of the mark. And I do have some examples of the final project posted on Brightspace. I believe they're on simulation and e-learning. They're both more traditional papers, and both were, I think, in the AA+ range. And the assessment tool we are using for the final project is in Appendix F, and it is an analytical rubric. And I think we'll end things here. I'm sure this video is already super long and I can tell I'm starting to lose my voice. We can continue to discuss assignments as our course progresses, so if there is anything specific that you would like me to cover in another video, just let me know and I'll pop back on here again. And with that, I will see you all online. Bye!